All right, welcome everybody to yet another episode of um, Voices of Influence. Today we're going to be talking about.
Hey Arjun.
Welcome everybody to yet another episode of Voices of Influence. Today we're talking on a topic that we've been talking about continuously on social selling and personal brand building. Today we have the COO of retention.com and rb2b.com. Santosh is here with us. Santosh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Arjun. Glad to be here.
Awesome, Santosh. So I want to just start off by just asking you about your journey. Tell us a little bit about retention.com, rb2b.com, and like your journey there.
Great. Yeah. So I started working with the team when our retentions revenue was single digit. That seems only like 18 months ago. And
Hmm.
I started advising the team. And then the revenue went from like 6 million to 13 to 23, somewhere in between. About 6 months ago, I joined them full time.
Hmm.
And originally, retention was only serving the e-commerce customers. So
Hmm.
after I joined, we decided to switch or bolt on a new solution for B2B. So
Hmm.
that's what we call retention B2B or rb2b.com. And what we are offering is we tell you the contact profile detail of your website visitors. Um, and it's intentionally built as a simple endpoint solution product. But what I'll tell you, what I can share is uh, we launched this solution about 2 3 months ago,
Hmm.
and as of today, we have about 13,000 accounts signed up.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
here's the kicker: we have no sales rep and no SDRs and no customer success, and we have only 3 employees in this project. Of course, we have like 55, 60 employees altogether.
Wait, rb2b is just three of you working on this? That's
Yeah.
okay. I First of all, I don't believe it, but again, we'll get more details for sure. Yeah. Tell me
Yeah,
more.
happy,
Yeah.
happy to elaborate, but that's what we are doing with our B2B.
That's great. So let me unpack a little bit there. Retention.com and RB2B are like they're now separate companies, and you're like launching
So
RB2B.
yeah, it's not separate company, but it's a separate product with a separate team. We
Got
try not to share. Well, Adam and I are the shared resource,
it.
but then those 3 people that I mentioned are full time on our B2B.
Got it. Got it. This sounds fantastic. So I think I want to know a lot more about RB2B, but like this show is about brand building and social selling. So let me jump into that a little bit and ask you I see how Adam and you are like on LinkedIn, always like evangelizing and like talking about topics that are relevant to your audience. They are sometimes about RB2B, but like many times it's like general content.
Yep,
Tell me something about this. Like, how did this start? Was it an intentional
yep.
process, or when did it even start?
So ironically, it started because of our B2B. So let me share more. So if you look at my LinkedIn or social journey, I think I started posting barely 7 or 8 months ago. And prior to
Oh,
that, like any other exec, I wasn't paying too much attention on LinkedIn. And the reason I started posting had to do with our B2B. We knew we were going to launch this or work on this B2B solution, right? So um, when you launch a new product, nobody knows you exist, right? And it takes months, sometimes years, to get that kind of recognition where you have a good shot of growing the business, right?
right.
Except I wanted to do this in like 2 months or 3 months,
Mm,
right? So so here's a social selling playbook
right.
that we used or that we came up with, right? So Adam started posting on LinkedIn far before, so I took a lot of tips from him. Um,
Mm,
but between the two of us, we decided that every day of the week, either of us is going to write on LinkedIn. So none of if you are on LinkedIn, you can't escape us, right?
Wow.
Uh, but
Hmm.
that's not enough, because that's still people read, and then so what? How does that help a new product we are launching, right? So what we did is, first, uh, we started getting good at writing posts. So we get between the two probably 500,000 to 1 million impressions a week, right?
Whoa.
So there are people engaging with our posts, like with likes or comments. So we wrote a script to download these likes and comments, and then we
Hmm.
run it through our ICP, and we identified which of them are like VP and above in our ICP, and automatically we started dropping a line saying, "Hey, do you want to check out what we are working on? Here's my calendar link."
Hmm.
Right? And then the ones that book meetings, and these were only 20 minutes calendar links. So um, we haven't launched the product yet, right?
Hmm.
But I did for 2 or 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I did 20 minutes call all afternoon,
Wow.
so sometimes 5 to 10 of these calls.
Wow.
And so at the end, I think I personally spoke to like 200 people. Adam may have spoken to another 100, or but between us, we spoke to 300 or so VP and above folks in our like target segment within a period of 2 months or 3 months.
Damn.
And
Okay.
we went from zero, nobody knowing us, to everybody knowing us. And by the way, we hadn't launched our solution yet.
Right.
So at the end of this exercise, we created a wait list of 3,000 people, because remember, we were only talking to VP and above, but there were a
Hmm.
lot of VP and below that were also in our ICP. We put them on a wait list with a nice message, right? So when we launched a solution, we had hundreds of decision makers out there that knew about us, and 3,000 that were on the wait list. And it's not surprising, within 2 months of launching, we have close to 2 million in ARR and
Wow.
13,000 accounts signed up.
That's some impressive numbers. I feel like people who are watching this show should probably like take a paper and pen and start taking notes, because this is like a impressive playbook that you have over here. So when it came to like posting on content, and like, so did you decide that like this social selling was going to be your only marketing strategy to go with, or like were there other bets that you had about like acquiring your early stage customers?
No, we decided this was going to be a primary way
Okay.
to sell, and let me tell you why.
Hmm.
Uh, so clearly, outreach is not working for most people, right? A
Right.
lot of the channels that worked earlier, they're decaying or dying. They don't work, like email, phone, others, right? Buyers and don't want to talk to salespeople, right? They're doing their own research.
Right.
So in a time like this, building a brand is really important, because if you have a strong brand, then you start getting inbound. You don't have to
Right.
invest as much in outbound. But now, how do you build a brand? Like,
Right.
who builds a brand? So marketers used to build a brand, but there's a problem there, right? The problem is, not brands don't work. Company brands don't work because nobody
Hmm.
trusts. Like, when was the last time you consumed any content that was
Right.
sponsored by a company?
Right.
Never,
Right.
right? Except, but you do engage with personal brands, right? People want to feel connected with personal brand, right? They want to uh, learn something, get motivated. Nobody gets motivated by a company brand. In fact, it's so backward. Companies are trying to be like human. That's the
Hmm.
new thing in branding, right?
Right.
So, and this is why you need to build personal brands. And then who builds personal brand? Is it marketing team? Is it SDRs? Is it sales? It has to be execs,
Hmm.
right? And because execs are great at storytelling. You asked about content, right? So then what kind of content do execs write about with personal brand, right? So
Right.
when you were building a company brand, the
Hmm.
content was very limited to product and features. So the content landscape was like limited to what you build, right? But
Right.
when you are building a personal brand, the landscape expands quite a bit, because you're not competing with your competitors only. You're competing for the attention of your prospective buyer, right? And the
Mm.
buyer only has 24 hours. That's finite. And in that 24 hours, they are also spending time on Netflix and TikTok and Amazon. And so you're competing with all of them,
Right.
not just your competitors, right? So then your landscape for storytelling increases significantly
Mm.
because you don't have to limit yourself to product. And that's
Right.
why you see a lot of our content that Adam or I write have nothing to do with our B2B,
Right.
because we are trying to create that connection, and that leads to trust, credibility, and that indirectly helps the company brand. It just this is what works now. Those days of this is what I call extreme PLG or LinkedIn led growth or social
Right.
led growth.
No, so many questions are popping up for me, but let me ask them one at a time. I think like one of the things that you mentioned, like him really like resonated with me is this what you mentioned is like the idea of like execs being the personal brand ambassadors of the companies. So you're kind of leveraging the influence of the team and in like kind of building part of it. And so as you are like, so maybe the first question is like, as you are scaling this company or so, would you like imagine that like every exec that's hired and everybody will be actually be partaking in this? Is that going to be like a company wide decision for you folks?
Yeah, it's actually, we are going beyond that.
Hmm.
So what we want to do, in addition to scaling this up, and we are going to scale the heck out of this business,
Okay.
and we are looking at some crazy numbers. The last time I saw these numbers was at Apollo, but that was not even a fraction of what we are doing here now,
Hmm.
in terms of scale. So watch out. So we are doing far beyond what traditional like execs. So we don't want to hire too many people. We want to
Hmm.
get to 10 million with less than 10 employees in
Wow.
revenue. And
Hmm.
what that means is everybody has to be a social marketer. So
Hmm.
already, out of those three employees that I mentioned, two of them write on LinkedIn regularly. One of them doesn't, except the engineering person, the support and the growth. You'll find Pete and Rob writing on LinkedIn. Um,
Hmm.
we also don't want to hire a product person. Everybody is a product person. Everybody is a marketer,
Okay.
and eventually I think we will have some uh, maybe handful of sales reps as we
Hmm.
start to go after enterprise. But what is really impressive is with 13,000 or so accounts, you can imagine we get thousands of inquiries or support inquiries every day.
Right.
And we have managed to automate that because we, uh, we right from day one, we decided we have to automate that part. Um,
Hmm.
so we have somebody, Rob, who is very technical, and he only manually addresses about 5 to 6% of those inquiries.
Hmm.
And every day, he's built all kinds of bot and automation and uses intercom fin, and all of that just works on its own. So
Wow.
we are, but to your question on LinkedIn game, it's
Right.
not just the execs. It's we want everybody eventually to get active on LinkedIn.
So this is great. So like you're almost like taking this team influence to a whole new level. Engineers, customer success, everybody is part of it, not just execs, but like everybody is going to be a part of this. And tell me about like the kind of content that people are posting. And I think like you alluded to that, and that like because it's a personal brand, your limits are there. How do you actually try to even control the narrative, or like do you not even control that? Like do you let it the individuals manage their own like voice tone and everything? How does that affect the company's brand or like credibility and everything, or do you not care about that at all?
Right. So we do have a metric. So every week we try
Mhm.
to um, uh, aggregate all the impressions we get from the
Mhm.
personal brands, and then we report internally. So
Mm.
one of the goal is to try to maximize that, right? We want a certain growth week after week, right? So and then we are all free to write whatever we want. We don't have a centralized approval process.
Got it.
But individually, we all want to do the best we can, right? So, for instance, my audience is somehow skewed towards sales and marketing and maybe entrepreneurship. So, and I have a lot of I have an engineering background. I like AI, and I do find myself writing about AI from time to time. Except my posts never do well in some of those other categories, whereas the sales and marketing, they do brilliant. So um, over time, I've kind of figured out what my audience wants to hear, but also what's relevant to them. And then
Mm,
I do stray my path, and then I learn my lessons, and I come back to the writing the same content or similar content. I'm sure Adam has his own content pillars and his audience, and then Pete and Rob have slightly different audience, but they are the goal is to really engage with the audience that each of us have, and any
mm,
future staff that we hire. It's not necessarily to speak or share a single message, right? We're not
mm,
trying to be like promote or endorse something, right? And
right.
then the one theme that we find is the nature of a job is such that we are constantly solving problem or
Mm-hmm.
trying to discover something new every week. And the guidance is that just share some of that with others, because there's enough, especially if it's relevant to your audience, right? Like,
Right.
for I talk to a lot of customers, partners, folks outside, and some of those conversations, something comes up that's interesting, and then I quickly take a note, and then next day I go post on LinkedIn. So, and I'm sure everybody's doing some aspect of that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish more people did some aspect of that, but for sure, like, some people are doing that. Um, so you mentioned, like, content pillars and everything. Like, tell me a bit more about like the strategy of like there is a bit of alignment as well required, right? Like marketing and sales, your conversation, or like AI, like, this still is within the ballpark of where you're doing. How do you like say, if someone wants to talk about like, I don't know, productivity, that might be completely unrelated to what you're doing. How do you like make sure that they're all within like the same ecosystem or like, universe of things?
So, so we try not to insist on that, and
Okay.
I don't think we will as a company. When I said content pillar, these were individual content
Right.
pillar. Like, Adam has a different content pillar than I have,
Right.
than Pete has, or Rob has, right? So we don't try to sync up and say all of us will talk about the same topics, or in a way we are running our own like content franchisee, and
See.
we are not trying to connect. The place where we connect is the people that engage with us. If we want to go after an account,
Mm.
right, and then one of us are somehow there's a follower in that account, so we do ask for intros, and so we
Ah.
have built a system to kind of go around. But yeah, we are not trying to follow talk about the same topic again and again. We are just individually trying to create trust and
Mm.
awareness within our own audience, and then grow our audience over time.
I think this is a very
and
interesting strategy. And sorry, go ahead, finish it.
and the reason this is important is we all also have a slightly different style,
Yeah.
right? So, like, Adam has a different style. If you talk to Adam, he he actually benefits a lot from being edgy and confrontational at times, and he does really well with that kind of content, right? And you've
Right.
seen some of those.
Seen that. Yeah.
um, if While I admire how much of attention he's able to grab, that's not my style. So
Right.
if I was trying to do the same thing or do shit posting like he does, I'll probably fail at it, right? So I do something different. So the thing about personal brand is also you have to be really authentic
Right.
and play your game, even if it's a weak game than somebody else's strong game, right? So because that's how you're authentic, and there's no problem showing vulnerability. You don't have to be perfect, right? People are just want to know who you are, the real you, not what you're trying to become.
Right.
right? And that's what generates trust and credibility at scale,
Right.
right? Which and this is why personal brands are beating the crap out of company brands, which
Right.
are not authentic.
Yeah, I think personal brands are beating the crap out of company brands should be like the title of this post. But I love that. The I think 2 points that you mentioned, I love it, is like that authenticity part, and I'll come to that. But like the other thing that you mentioned, which is very interesting, and I want to highlight that, is you're not trying to like align your audience with your customers. You're not like trying to like make sure that like your audience are your customers. Instead, your audience are just your network or people who are trusting you, that will somehow help you link to your customers eventually, but you're not focusing on that. And that's actually a very important distinction, because whenever I see many people building the personal brand, we also advise a lot of people to say that, like, it's like try to get your audience to be lined up with your customers, but it need not be that. It's actually an interesting point.
No, this is I can add some more color to it.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is my personal brand is a community
Mm,
where I try to help the community, right? And I'm not asking for anything in return, but then this credibility and trust is built in the process. So whatever I build, uh, these folks, they give it a good shot, right?
right.
And that's all I'm looking for. So how do you build that trust and credibility, right? So writing content is one way I help, but I also, because I write content, if somebody connects with the content, is that human connection is really what I'm looking for, right? So every week I get probably 10 to 20 inquiries about random things. Is I'm doing this, how do I do that? I read your post, I'm running a staffing company, and can I apply it? Can I get 15 minutes or half an hour? And I do probably 5 to 10 of these calls a week, which
Wow.
is a significant time suck, but I kind of manage it. And I find that's really valuable, because the 20 minutes I spend with one person, I forget that spend. But then 6 months later, they come back and they remember, and they
Right.
are a strong follower. But that's how you build connection. They talk to others, and I think the network gets stronger. And so it's important to not just write content, but also to follow up and
Yeah.
connect, and just have a mindset of just helping with nothing to expect in return, at least not directly, right?
Right.
Versus if you try to write content and measure it with how many converted, and
Right.
attribute it, and then ignore all the else, that's not the kind of personal brand that I relate with.
I think I really like that distinction. You can't like run it like it's a marketing campaign. It has to be a more community mindset and like thinking about it. This is awesome. I want to like dive a little bit into like the process, the content process itself. Like how do you come up with ideas? And I think I love your tip about like, a conversation with a salesperson or so will like tap an idea and you're like noting that down for like a potential content. How else do ideas come to you, and like what is the process of like converting that idea into content?
Yeah. So I keep a online notepad open all the time. So whenever I'm having a conversation, I look for problems,
Mm,
that business problems that we run into, or if somebody comes up with some problem. So like I said, I talk to a lot of people over the week, and um, I I turn that I basically take a note of those challenges or interesting conversations, and I write all my content over the weekend. So
mm,
I, like Sunday morning, I spend 2 or 3 hours, I block
wow,
it, and it doesn't take too long to write the content, but I just like a quiet time, like a dedicated time where I'm getting no Slack messages and so on. um, yeah, it's the I tried using like a ghostwriter and so on in the beginning, or in the past. Um, I don't think, again, it goes back to authenticity.
right,
It's hard to have a proxy between and some agencies will claim and they do a good job, and I'm sure they do, but I don't feel having tried. So writing my own content is great. We do have a LinkedIn coach
Mm,
that he's actually super helpful. What he does, he doesn't change the content too much. uh, First he reviews and fixes any typos and so on, but he's really good at thinking about the hook.
mm,
His take is that if the hook is right, then people like, if you get them to read the first few lines, then they're likely to read the rest. But if you get that wrong, and so I've learned a lot from him about like the beginning and the end of the content, which
mm.
so he just does minor tweaks, but those tweaks are super valuable. And then he manages our accounts and kind of posts at the right time and so on.
I
So,
see. Got it.
but
Okay.
the bigger effort is not the writing the content, but
Right.
it's engaging with the comments,
Right.
because that takes like more time than writing content, especially if the post does well. Like responding to like 100 comments or sometime like 500 comments, it just like takes a while. But then these algorithms are such that if you stop responding, they just stop spreading.
Mm,
So the more you engage, the more it spreads. So it's LinkedIn gives you the gift of attention, but it's just a huge time suck. Uh,
yeah. No, no, I totally hear you. And I love your process of like dedicating a time on Sunday and then like spending a bulk of time and then like taking help and like tweaking this. All these sounds like fantastic. And I've seen sometimes like there are video content being posted as opposed to like written content. Like when do you pick video versus like written content?
right. So Sunday I write three piece, or I try to. Sometimes I do two, sometimes three, and I have a call with our half an hour, 30-minute call on Wednesdays with my like today's with our video guy,
Mm,
and I just pick one of those and turn them into a video. So I do once a week video. I think Adam
okay.
does like twice or thrice. Like he does more video posts.
Okay.
Um, I do one, but that's a cadence that works for me. I do like uh, two text. Yeah, doing more video would also require more time because yeah, it takes like a good half an hour to do one
Mm,
video, right?
right. That's awesome. So you do that, and so for video, you typically like record the video and then like have somebody like clean it up and everything and post it. Is that
Yeah,
what you do typically?
yeah. So John, this we have somebody uh, that helps us with some of our videos.
Got it. Got it. And and you talked a lot about like sort of engaging with content. And so there's LinkedIn posting and engaging with content. Do you like leverage other social media channels in terms of like, like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram and everything, or like is LinkedIn your like world right now?
Yeah, most of the topics that we talk about, and also I'm trying to do this for mostly for our B2B, not
Right.
the e-commerce or retention.com. In
Right.
fact, retention customers are not on LinkedIn. They're
Mm,
likely more on Twitter, like e-commerce companies.
right.
But for B2B, they're all on LinkedIn,
Mm,
right? LinkedIn is, there's no other channel better than LinkedIn. Um, so yeah, we haven't really gone out and spend time on other channels. Adam has generated a lot of video content, so he's putting it on YouTube.
right.
But we get about 150 new signups every day for our B2B.
Wow.
Um, all of them come through LinkedIn through these content and posts that we do. 100%. We are doing no other channel, no paid, uh, no outreach. It's all LinkedIn. Uh, that's kind of um, it's growing pretty significantly on its own.
I love it. This is a damn impressive stat in itself. So I know we are like close to end over here. So I want to like ask last one or two questions over here is like if there are people from an early stage startup and who come and ask you is like, hey, you've given us your like brand or so. Here, what would your advice be? Like, should I start like posting? And if so, like, I seem like I'm just getting started, I'm not getting much engagement. should I continue this? So what would your advice be for those people?
Right, right. My advice would be, look, you don't have to have a lot of experience. Everybody has a story to tell, right? And if you have no story to tell, do an office hours. Are you good with fixing computers? Call your audience and tell them, if you have any tech problem, I'm going to fix it in 1 hour. I'm just making it up, but I
Right.
mean that's like the most bottom denominator. But the point is, if you're good at sales, then, or if you are like selling a certain tech SaaS, have an office hour for your
Mm,
prospects and say, you want to buy from my competitors, I'll tell you which competitor to buy from, right? Or
mm,
I'm an expert in this domain, just use me for free, right? The more you give, especially when you're early in the game, the more you can monetize, right? You build a community, and first you have to help and then ask for help, right? And
mm,
I think the future salespeople, the best salespeople, will all will all have personal brand, will all be like influencers. And when they leave one company and join another company, all of their like community will go with them to the other
right.
company, and then they'll start signing off from the previous one and sign up to the next company. And
Right.
this is going to be a whole new world, which earlier, when customers were tied to the company brand, that wasn't possible, right? So uh, this is, if you're early in the game, this is just the right time to
Mm,
start building your own community. The mistake a lot of young folks do is they feel like they don't have much to share,
right.
right? Which, like, they feel like they don't have but they read the same content I read, right?
Right.
If you don't have much to, just share what's already happening out there, or share your, just add a little bit of your opinion, or like I said, just find ways to help. Everybody
Right.
needs help, right? If you allocate a few hours, which if you are early in the business, you probably have more time, just use it. Time is such a big currency.
Right. I love it. I think the key message for early stage startups and entrepreneurs who are starting out their thought leadership, personal brand building, founder brand building journey is like, think about this as like a way for you to give your ideas, your thoughts, your time, and like don't worry about like sort of reaping the benefits of it in the near term. Just take like a long term thinking and just keep doing that until like eventually it will reap. And I think like this you said, well, like I almost should probably go back and like cut these thing into like so many bite-sized video clips because there are just so much like nuggets of information over here. But Santosh, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. Thanks so much for your time and all your thoughtful advice.
Thank you. This was a fun conversation, Arjun.
Thank you.